Welcome to our 183rd weekly webcast. Now, if this is the first time you're joining us, welcome. If you joined us before, welcome back. And so the way this call works is you can ask me anything, and I will humbly do whatever I can to humbly help you take your career to the next level. Now, I prepared a quick segment for you on investing in inflationary times. Then what I'll do is I'll take questions as usual, and thank you as always. So I'm also going to tell you what I've been investing in recently, what I'll continue to buy, which is risk-free. It is, and has a great return. Okay. Why is there so much volatility in the markets, and what should you do? I'll tell you what I'm buying in a minute. Now, the best way to understand what's happening right now is to go back in time to the early 1980s when inflation was way worse than it is now. Now, I'll come back to the doc and medicine that fixes the economy very, very soon. But first, let's go back in time to the early 1980s. So in the early 1980s, inflation in the United States reached 14% versus less than 10% today. And if inflation goes up a lot, then you don't have an economy. Now, things were much worse back then than today because back then in the early 80s, you had 10% unemployment versus close to 4% right now. So things are not as bad as people think they are. So how did the government lower inflation in the 1980s? Well, what they did was they increased interest rates to close to 20%. And they did this because they were terrified that inflation would get just as bad as it was in Germany after World War I. Now, inflation was so bad in Germany after World War I that what happened was, per this image, you literally had to get a wheelbarrow full of money just to buy a loaf of bread. All right, give me 1 second. I'm going to fix this green screen behind me. I'll show you behind the scenes, and then I'll get back on track here. Okay, hold on a second, guys. All right, so I'm going to go over here, and I am going to change this a little bit so my shoulder is not as obvious that it's not on the green screen. So I'll go to key threshold and I'll change it slightly here. Not too much so you can see the letters behind me, but enough so that it works. Okay, great. We're keeping it real. All right, let me get back on track here. Thanks, guys. All right, so inflation was so bad in Germany after World War I that per this image right here, what you had to do was you had to get a wheelbarrow full of money just to buy a loaf of bread. And kids would actually play with money that was worthless then. It was cheaper to give them that than to actually buy them toys. So right here, this is a picture of the manager of the store of money in America in the 1980s. So this is Paul Volcker at work. He was the head of the Federal Reserve in America back then. And basically what that means was he was the dude that decided to raise interest rates to close to 20% to beat inflation back in the 1980s. Now, he spent a lot of time back then talking to German economists on how to make sure that inflation did not get out of control in America. And it looks like he has a beard here. People used to smoke during work back then. It's crazy. All right. So how do we get to close to 10% inflation rates today? How did all of this happen? Well, before I discuss this, let's first talk about how does the government raise rates and why must they raise rates when times are good? So the way they do it is they sell bonds to the public and to other countries and to investment firms. And when they sell you a bond, you get a piece of paper and they get money. And the government takes that money and puts it out of circulation. And we all know that when there is less money or fewer PS5s, for example, out there, then the price of money or PS5s or anything goes up in price. So if Sony increased the supply of PS5s, then the price of PS5s would go down. Now, it's the exact same thing when it comes to money. So again, when the government sells bonds to you, you get a bond and the government gets money. They take that money out of circulation. Less money means higher prices for money, meaning they're trying to beat inflation this way. Okay, so if governments don't raise rates when times are good, then they can't jumpstart the economy by cutting interest rates when times are bad. This is a money gun with fake money. But when you flood money into the system, What happens is the value of money goes down, meaning interest rates go down. They're doing the opposite right now. So picture this in reverse, all the money coming back in. Okay. So hindsight is 2020. But in 2020, when the economy was doing well before COVID, governments did not raise interest rates enough. And what you have to do is you have to raise rates when times are good, so that you can cut rates to jumpstart the economy when times are bad. This is one of my favorite props. And when governments cut rates, what they're doing is they're buying back bonds from you. So you give the government their money back, and in return they give you, you give the government the bond back, and in return the governments give you your money back, meaning supply of money goes up and interest rates go down. Okay, if you have questions about this, let me know, please. So it's similar to with a PlayStation 5. Okay, so if more PlayStation 5s are available, then the price of the PS5 goes down. Okay, let's go back to the doc here. It's my favorite movie. So there's two medicines that the government can use to fix the economy. One medicine is called monetary policy, which means the policy of money and cutting interest rates. The other way to fix the economy and the other medicine is called fiscal policy, where governments spend lots of money on building roads and infrastructure when times are bad, as this leads to less unemployment. Now, when COVID hit hard in 2020, around March or so, governments around the world cut rates to basically zero. So the monetary policy medicine jar was empty. And so governments also massively increased spending on stimulus projects, which some people in the younger generation refer to as steal from us projects. Now, there's only so much and so many stimulus projects you can make before a country can't pay off its debt. And in 2020, it was so bad in many countries like England, where England saw a 20% year-over-year decline in GDP in one quarter, which is actually a steeper decline than even when the Germans were bombing England during World War II. It was rough. So the dilemma by 2021 was that rates were zero, and both the monetary policy and fiscal policy medicine jars were empty. So how can you then stimulate the economy if you run out of medicine? Well, you can't do it unless you leave rates ridiculously low for way too long. And if rates are zero for a long time, then nobody keeps their money in the bank. People start companies when rates are low, and people invest in stocks and speculative investments like NFTs and many lower quality cryptocurrencies. And now Bitcoin is at the lowest level it's been today in 2022, since it was back in 2020, because rates are going up. Okay, so when rates go down, people buy speculative stuff. And when rates are basically zero, what happens is this. Hedge funds and retail investors lever up, and they use margin, okay, to invest money they don't have. It's dangerous. People also buy more property and any asset class aside from keeping money in the bank. And so the third invisible medicine is called the wealth effect, and it worked brilliantly until this year. It was brilliant because if we all make money on stocks, then we feel richer and we spend more money, which helps the economy. And 2/3 of the United States economy is consumer spending. It's not big business. And this is why the whole world watches consumer sentiment statistics that come out of the United States. And so as of now, we know the United States economy is the biggest in the world. China will probably pass the US by 2040. So I think that in April of 2020, when meme stocks took off, like GameStop, AMC, and others, I think what happened was this. I think some governments use their offshore slush funds to actually buy the most shorted stocks, which led to the mother of all short squeezes. And the plan was perfectly executed. And yes, there were shortages of some products, but unemployment actually was very, very low, unlike what we saw in the early 80s. And by early 2022, it really looked like everything was going to be okay for the economy, and we would have a soft landing, not a hard landing. However, Russia's moronic decision to invade Ukraine made inflation much worse than expected, as Ukraine is larger than any other country in Europe, and most grain imports from many countries actually comes from Ukraine. And to make matters much worse, the bulk of oil and, pardon me, to make matters much worse, the bulk of oil and natural gas that Europe uses comes from Russia. So all of a sudden, inflation jumped materially. And the only way to stop extreme inflation is to materially raise rates, which is what is happening right now. And it sucks because inflation is close to 10% now in many countries, and nobody's getting a 10% raise. So it destroys the economy in the near term. But if we don't raise rates, we don't have an economy in the long term. So are things as bad today as they were back in the early 1980s? Absolutely not. Because two massive events took place since then that are incredibly deflationary. And I'm always an optimist, as many of you know. The two things that happened since then that are deflationary are, number one, the Berlin Wall fell. And the next Federal Reserve chairperson after Volcker was Alan Greenspan. And when I worked at a hedge fund called Citadel, Greenspan, also smoking here, a pipe this time, not a cigar. When I worked at a hedge fund called Citadel, Greenspan presented to us. And he explained that we had unprecedented economic growth in the 1990s because the Berlin Wall fell. And I got this piece of the Berlin Wall from Checkpoint Charlie in Berlin. So once the Berlin Wall fell, you had millions of cheap and brilliant labor moving from East Europe to West Europe, which kept inflation relatively low. And the decimation of communism then was the mother of all economic stimuluses back in the 90s. It was awesome. The peace dividend paid dividends. Then a second event took place in 2005 that was 100 times more deflationary than the Berlin Wall falling. And that was the invention of Amazon Web Services and other cloud service providers as well. Many of the top companies in tech only exist because they run their companies using Amazon Web Services, including companies like Lyft, Netflix, Airbnb, etc. And Amazon, what they've done, it's amazing, is Amazon has cut the pricing points of Amazon Web Services more than 100 times since 2005, which is deflationary as more companies are now born online. And this means more price discovery for us consumers. And we all know that competition is good for the consumer. So what am I buying right now? Well, stocks that I love, I'm buying the ones that have an RSI of 20, meaning they're very oversold. I look at fundamentals and valuation first, but I do pay attention to tech. And so I love buying broken stocks, but not broken companies. And what that means is I love buying stocks that I'm bullish on long term, meaning I'm positive on long term, that are down more than the market, so they're oversold. So it feels like you're catching a falling knife when you're buying it, but you got to be that way because if you're not a contrarian, you'll never make money. You got to be unemotional as well. So again, I love buying broken stocks, but not broken companies. And I teach much more about technical analysis and fundamental investment analysis in my MBA program. Now, when should we all buy ETFs and speculative stocks in size? Well, you want to do it when an indicator called the VIX hits 70. And I'll talk about this quickly because I have discussed this before on previous webcasts. That's me buying time to change screens. Okay, here we go. All right, so the way it works is if you go to finance.yahoo.com and you type in VIX, there we go, with a little accent circumflex for chapeau there. So you type in VIX. And so what the VIX is the VIX is actually, let me hit refresh that annoying box there. Here we go. The VIX is actually an indicator of what the market thinks volatility is going to be in the S&P 500 in the next 30 days. And what happens is when the VIX is really high, it means investors are expecting a lot of volatility in options. And I teach all about options and hedge funds and advanced portfolio management in my MBA program. So when the VIX spikes to above 70 or so, like it did in 2008, and in March of 2020, actually it spiked above 80, that means there's maximum fear out there. And you have to back up the truck and buy a lot of stocks or ETFs or even speculative companies because they do incredibly well because there's mean reversion and they bounce back. And if you have questions about options or any other asset class, please let me know because, as always, I'm here to humbly help you. All right, let me get back now to my slides. Okay, cool. Great. Okay, now, since rates are going up, it makes sense to think about, of course, buying bonds. So please do your own research on this and look into buying government bonds in your country if the risk is low. Now, what I did was I purchased risk-free, that's right, risk-free United States government bonds called savings bonds at a yield of 9.62%. And the way I did this, and I'll show you in a second, was through a government website called treasurydirect.gov, which is a no-brainer of an investment decision if you live in the United States, in my humble opinion. Now, if you don't live in the United States, you might want to look into buying bonds in the country you're based in, but make sure you do a thorough analysis on it to make sure that they're inflation protected. Let me explain this in more detail. Okay, so let's go together to, hold on one second. Let's go together to a website called treasurydirect.gov. This is a government website. And you can only buy Series I savings bonds from treasurydirect.gov, right from the government. And these bonds are issued by the United States government because they want interest rates to go up, similar to what I explained before. So what happens, and here's the 9.62% right here, which I'll explain in more detail in a second. So what happens is if you invest up to $10,000 in purchasing a Series I savings bond, then the government gets your money, okay? And they take that money out of circulation, as I explained before. And when they get rid of the money and take it out of circulation, then the supply of money goes down and the price of money, meaning interest rates, goes up. So this 9.62% bond right here, it's available to buy up until October of this year. And then on November 1st, they announced the rates that for the next 6 months, for the next series of bonds you could buy. Then on May 1st, they announced the rate for the next 6 months after that. Rinse, lather, repeat. Every 6 months they do this. And so the rate is 9.62% now, but every 6 months, the rate on this bond will change based on what the rate of inflation is and what the government's interest rates are. So please buy these for your kids. They're wonderful investments. There's a limit of $10,000 per person. It's a no-brainer. And you can open an account at this government website here called Treasury Direct, okay, treasurydirect.gov. And you cannot sell these in under 1 year, though, without penalties. There's also another rule that if you sell it within the first 5 years, you give up 3 months, meaning 1/4 of performance, which isn't that bad. Okay, so this is the absolute lowest risk investment in the world. Okay, so the very last company, it is what it is, to go bankrupt would be the United States economy. It's been that way for several decades. Again, this is the lowest risk investment in the world, as you can't lose money because you receive the fixed rate of whatever the interest rate is, plus, here's the kicker, you receive more because they account for inflation. Okay, so technically, if I own this, and I do, I get 9.62% annualized. And let's say that by November 1st, inflation is much higher, and so the government raises rates more, then I make more money for the next 6 months after that. However, if inflation goes down and interest rates aren't going up much, then what happens is by November 1st for the 6 months after that, I actually get a lower rate. Okay, but you never lose any money on this. Okay, so the rate of the Series I savings bond changes every 6 months. So again, if I own it, then at the end of October, if inflation is higher, then the return on this bond will be higher than 9.62% and vice versa. If there's deflation, you can't lose money ever, as it's risk-free. And so Series I savings bonds are tax-free at the state level, but you do pay federal tax on it when you sell it, unless you sell and use the proceeds for education. Lastly, to learn more about basic and advanced ways to invest, including options and basic and advanced portfolio management, you can sign up for my MBA degree program. So all you do is you go to harounmba.com, okay? And our next class, this will be our 4th one-year class. Next class starts on June 1st, okay? And positions are limited. If you go to this website here and you want to do a call with me to talk about doing gold or platinum, click here. I got plenty of Zoom sessions as well. All right. Now, the way this program works is it's $9.99 for gold and $14.99 for platinum. And the class that joins gold or platinum on June 1st is grandfathered in, so they can attend any future MBA program that I launch, and I'll be launching a bunch more. They can attend any future gold MBA program for free forever if you sign up for June 1st. And this is the last time that I'm doing that offer because I don't want classes to get too big. Okay, thank you. Let me get to the most important part here, which is to answer questions. And Icy Saracen, thank you so much for the $5 donation. Appreciate Australian dollars. You didn't have to do that. That will go directly to a charity. Thank you. Thank you. My wife's name is Charity. Okay. That was awful down here. I won't go there again. No, thank you. We'll go right to Project Magoo, where we're building schools overseas. We'll be done our first school this year in Rwanda, and then we're doing Kenya next year. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. Yeah. All right, let's do this. Let's do this. Thanks again for that wonderful donation. Okay. All right. First up, I have got here, and I guess I'll read your questions you donated. Yeah. I'll read all questions anyway. Chris, what's the best way to lower housing prices? Should we build more houses? Yeah, well, from a supply-demand perspective, yeah, if you build more houses or anything similar to putting more money out there in society with Fed rate cuts, then the price of houses goes down. My grandfather used to tell me, though, the 3 most important things to consider when investing in real estate are location, location, location. And so it's not just a matter, though, of building more houses. It all has to do with financing. So if the government keeps raising interest rates, it'll absolutely decimate the real estate market like it did in the early 80s and early 90s as well. So yeah, just be careful. But if you want to understand what interest rates are going to be, you can always go to treasury.gov and look at the yield curve. And I can explain that in more detail if you want me to. The bottom line, though, is since we all base the loans we get or mortgages we get for houses based on that yield curve, like the 30-year treasury, based on the 30-year mortgage rate. Since the treasury yields are going up, so are mortgage rates as well, which will hurt the real estate sector. Yeah, the best thing to do is always to buy you want to buy the crappiest house in the nicest neighborhood instead of buying the nicest house in the crappiest neighborhood. And you can go to Zillow.com to look for comps. Okay, meaning what are other houses selling at in your area? Thank you for that question and the wonderful donation going to charity. I appreciate that. Thanks. All right, and let me actually change camera angles here. This will be fun. There we go. Okay. All right, next up, I've got, looks like Renveer posted this last night at 11 p.m. Thank you. Hello, Chris. Hey, how can we deal with uncertainty involved in starting a business after we made our plan? Yeah, you want to be incredibly cheap. Okay, it's when times are amazing, like don't over celebrate. You got to be unemotional, because if you celebrate too much success, then when things don't go well, the opposite happens. You'll freak out. So what I recommend doing always is writing a thorough business plan. And in my MBA program, which again starts June 1st, the gold and platinum version, in the 3rd semester, I've got something called a venture capital boot camp. And what I do is I help you write your business plan, and I coach you for 6 classes. That's about 18 hours worth. And you have to finish the business plan yourself. Of course, I'll help you. And you also have to create presentation slides to pitch to investors, which I'll help you do as well, because I've humbly raised and managed over $1 billion in my career. I've made a lot of mistakes networking, but I figured a couple of things out that I humbly think work. So if you don't write a business plan, then what will happen is there's a lot of risks that you won't anticipate. And failing to plan is planning to fail. And one of the most important decisions you'll make in your entire life is starting a company. And people, what they do is they usually go with their gut, which is wrong. Because when you go with your gut and you're starting a company or working on a big project at a corporation, when you just go with your gut, you're thinking about all the qualitative aspects. But if you don't have data to back up your thesis, it's a dream and nothing more. And so what I do is I teach you finance and accounting from scratch in my MBA program so you can understand what a company might make in the near term and long term. And this is based on work experience I have working in venture capital, working at Goldman Sachs, etc. Yeah. All right. All right, next up, Michael Nunez. Hey, Michael, how are you? Michael just joined my program, MBA program. Great to see you. It was a great Zoom call we had last week. Looking forward to Zooming with you again at 10 a.m. today. Thank you. And Michael is a doctor based in Arizona. And I was joking with him. I was saying that I'm on the board of a really important charity that's near and dear to my heart called Doctors Without Diplomas. Yeah. I got that from Zach Galifianakis. That's not my joke. Okay, great. All right. So Michael wrote, hey, Chris, it's a great day for business education. Every day is a great day for education. Thank you. And God bless you. It's great to see you here. Yeah. It's a beautiful day, man. I'm going to open this up. I never do this. Screw it. I'm letting my hair down, so I might as well open up the door as well. Okay. All right. So next up, Renveer wrote, hello, Chris. How are you? I'm always great. Thanks. And then you wrote, can you please tell us the software investment companies use to manage and keep track of their clients' money? Yeah. Woof. That's hard. I've always designed it myself. Like in my MBA program, I provide you with a ton of Excel documents that I use to help you do portfolio management, as well as how to keep track of and invest in 30 different option strategies. And I developed all this stuff when I worked at hedge funds over the years, because there's no software product that's perfectly customizable for you to do that. Now, high net worth families and family offices, they buy ERP type software, similar to what you can buy from SAP and Oracle, that keeps track of where their assets are globally. But most people do this using cloud computing and the source where the money is stored. So for example, if you have your money stored at Goldman Sachs or Morgan Stanley or UBS, you might look through your portfolio and look at risk management online directly on those aforementioned websites. Okay. All right, next up, we got Nima, who wrote, I truly appreciate your dedication to your students and weekly webcasts. Thank you. And you wrote, thank you so much and have a wonderful day. I appreciate that. Likewise. Thank you. Thank you. All right, I'm going to close this because it'll hit the camera exposure hard. And my neighbor is doing construction. And when I first started doing these webcasts 5 years ago, whatever it was painful because my neighbor would only cut the grass on days when I was having this webcast, which was annoying. Yeah. All right, let me go back to the main camera angle here. Okay, cool. All right. Next up, P Hats wrote, hey, Chris, hope you're doing good. Likewise, thank you. Then you wrote, I would like to ask you, do you have any advice on dealing with anxiety? There are times when I deal with situations that seem impossible to me. Yeah. The first thing I got to say is things are never as bad as you think they are, especially when it comes to investing, your career, etc. And I'm a religious man, so for those of you that are not religious, you can earmuff this if you want. But I don't worry about my career. I never worry about it because I know that God already knows what's going to happen. And that puts me at ease. And if I question, my faith by worrying, then I'm basically disrespecting everything I stand for, religiously and morally, etc. And you got to see crisis as an opportunity. Like, you might not understand this right now, but for those of you that have had career setbacks, and I certainly have had many, I want you to think of it differently. I want you to think of it as kind of like a gift. Hold on. And longer term, you look back and say, thank God that happened to me. Thank God I didn't enjoy working for that person who was a schmuck, because it motivated me to start my own company or get a better job. And so see a crisis as an opportunity always. When life gives you lemons, you make lemonades. And most people freak out in business at the worst time. And that's why Warren Buffett said the New York Stock Exchange is the only store in the world where consumers sell stuff when it goes on sale. Imagine that. Freaking out and panicking and having anxiety at the worst time. You have to be a contrarian. Another way to get rid of anxiety in general in all aspects of your life is to say this. And I'm going to give you an exercise that's life-changing and simplistic. I want you to say, I don't care what people think of X. And I want you to do that 10 times. Okay, so I want you to, for example, get a pen and paper right now. And I have one here. And if you meet me in real life, I am a tiny human being. This is a normal size pencil. Just kidding. This is a prop for one of my programming courses I'm teaching my MBA students. Small hands. But I want you to get a piece of paper. And I want you to write this down. I don't care what about X. Okay? I don't care what people think about X. And do it 10 times. For example, I don't care what people think of the fact that I just made a fool of myself with a tiny pencil. I don't care what people think of my hair. I don't care what people think of my job. I don't care that people will find out that I'm a 50-year-old man-child and I still love playing video games. I'm playing Age of Empires 4 and Red Dead Redemption Part 2 again. It's so good. I don't care what people think of my career. I don't care that people at cocktail parties this is true, won't talk to me as much as they used to because I don't work in venture capital anymore. I don't care that people think it's silly that I'm a teacher. I love teachers. I don't care that people know that my hair, I went gray in my 20s and I don't know, I kind of like to brush this way. It looks ridiculous, I know. I don't care. You got to do that and live your life on that level. And the most successful entrepreneurs are like that as well. They don't give no damn what people think of them. And if they did care, they wouldn't be successful because they'd be spending all their time focusing on the anxiety of what other people think of them. So that's what I would say. That's what I would say. From a mental conditioning, counter anxiety perspective, I don't care. That's what you have to say. And there's a great chart. Let me switch angles here. I'll try to do a close up here. There's a great chart, okay? And on the chart, there's two axes. There's an x-axis and a y-axis. The x-axis is your age, and the y-axis is give a darn. So age, give a darn. When you're younger, when you're down here, like my beautiful children, right? When you're younger, you're down here. You don't give a damn what people think of you. You have meltdowns in restaurants. You just don't care. When you're older, you're up here. You don't care either. Old people don't have confidence problems. They don't care. The problem is this. When you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, you're up here. You care. That's death spiral. And I call that the triangle of despair. And you need to avoid that at all costs. You got to live your level at a lower level. You live your life at a lower level where you just don't care what people think of you. I promise you'll be happier. It's therapeutic too. I'm not a licensed therapist, but I think it's therapeutic. And don't ever live your life to try to please other people. Like, don't go to become a lawyer. Who wants to be a lawyer? Because your parents want you to, for example. Unless you're a civil rights lawyer, then I love you. Don't care what anybody thinks of your career or your choices in life or who you are. Because as Dr. Seuss said, those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. And it's funny, when I used to read books to my kids, I would read them a Dr. Seuss book, and I would swear the doc was talking to me. Okay. All right. All right. And then P-Hat's had a follow-up about the anxiety comment, which is, there are times when I deal with situations that seem impossible to me. Nothing is impossible. The word impossible starts with I am. I'm possible. Yeah, I got that from Audrey Hepburn. Wonderful actress, yeah. From Breakfast at Tiffany's, which is also a great song. Okay. So you wrote here, there are times when I deal with situations that seem impossible to me. Thus, my logical thinking goes out the window, and I'm left panicked and thinking negatively. This got me to have a panic attack, in my last job, and I left. So how do you recommend dealing with this? Yeah. In addition to having a laissez-faire, carefree attitude of not caring what people think you also have to schedule in your breaks, right? God created the world in 6 days, but he rested on the 7th. And obviously God did not have to rest on the 7th, but he was doing that to tell us, hey, one of the 10 basic rules in many wonderful religions is take a day off, man. Take a day off to relax and just kind of decompress. And in my MBA program, I've got a special scheduling system that you can use to accomplish way more every day. This works. And one of the important things is to schedule time for you every day, meaning going to the gym, watching Netflix, playing Red Dead Redemption Part 2 on a PS5, which is great, whatever it is. And also to take a day off. Okay, if you want to get something done, give it to a busy person. And if you schedule everything during the week only, not weekends, if you schedule everything, you'll be much more well balanced. And you write down your goals as well. Makes you feel good if you get close to them. And when you reach those goals, always set new ones. Otherwise, it's depressing. What are we here for? But you got to schedule your breaks. Yeah. Okay. Okay. And I'd also talk to, I'd go to your doctor as well, your GP, and just ask them, what can you do lifestyle-wise? Yeah. And maybe it's diet. Like for me, the body's a temple. I try to treat it right, whatever. I don't smoke, don't drink. I don't smoke unless I'm on fire. I don't drink anymore, but I don't drink any less. Terrible. But what I do is I consume a lot of water. I try to do this every day. We are 60% water, which helps me with all aspects of my life. I make 7 of these every single Sunday. Okay. And in here are every antioxidant on the planet. And this helps me as well from a nourishment perspective. Lots of kale in there as well, which is a super food with tons of protein. Kale does. People don't realize that. And I also have my bulletproof coffee, which I've talked about on previous webcasts. And so I love to biohack a lot. I monitor everything as well. My sleep, I'm using something called an Oura ring, because I'm a nerd, which monitors my sleep, everything. Because if you treat this right, this works much gooder. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, Thomas. Hey, Thomas. Thomas wrote, hey, Chris, as always, it's heartwarming to see you as usual. Thank you. God bless you. It's more heartwarming for me to see you. You all fill this up with a lot of love, which is why this works much better. Thank you. One more thing I want to say quickly is this. When I get depressed, and it happens a bunch, what I do is immediately I go to the gym. It's the opposite of what most people do, because most people, they get depressed, they just want to kind of sit down, feel sorry for themselves, whatever. And I've done that too. But go to the gym. And after working out, nobody ever says, damn it, I wish I didn't work out today. Said nobody ever. Because when you go to the gym, and I'm not just talking about just elliptical stuff, but I'm trying to put on some muscle. Obviously, it's not doing a great job, but whatever. But when you go to the gym, you release endorphins. And it's kind of like a free version of Prozac. So anyway, if you feel like crap, go to the gym. I promise you it works. And you do have time for it if you schedule every day. Yeah. Okay. And then Tom wrote, what is your opinion, the reason why the S&P 500 cryptos are tanking hard for the past week? Yeah. Well, it's because of inflation. So if governments raise interest rates materially, then everybody says, hey, man, I'll just leave my money in the bank. I can make, like, for example, for me, as I explained earlier, with savings bonds, I'm making 9.62% by investing in government debt, which is risk-free. If you told me, Chris, I guarantee you that you will make 10% by investing in the stock market, and if you lose any money, I'll give you that money. Would you take that bet? Of course. So that's what's happening. Governments around the world are raising interest rates, and people are buying more bonds. And also, it's more expensive to invest now because a lot of people, when they invest, they get loans for it, meaning margins, which is dangerous, which, as Warren Buffett calls it, is a financial weapon of mass destruction. Derivatives and margin, that is. So a lot of companies that borrow money to invest, like hedge funds, they're de-risking now. Yeah. Okay. And it sucks, man, that inflation is high and interest rates are going up. But it's the right decision. We'll be better off in the long run because of this. If we don't do this, we don't have an economy. Yeah. And if we let inflation get out of control, then you have to cancel the currency completely, which is what happened in Venezuela with their currency, ironically called the fuerte, which is Spanish for strong. Yeah. Disastrous. Or what could happen was in Zimbabwe, in September actually, of 2008, the Zimbabwe government, inflation was such a problem there that the daily inflation rate was 98%. Okay. All right. Next up, Thomas wrote also, what do you think the macroeconomic environment will look like in the coming months? A continued decline or recovery? Yeah. It's all predicated on what happens with Putin. It is. I think he's a very stubborn man, highly illogical. So I think things will get worse. Yeah, I do. And I think we're definitely in a recession. And it's much harder for Europe than it is the United States, given the fact that Europe receives more of its oil and natural gas from Russia. Yeah, it's rough. Yeah. And from a consumer spending perspective as well, the closer you live to Ukraine, the more nervous you are and the less you want to spend. And I pray every day that this war ends quickly, but I don't think it's going to. And I think we're going to a recession. And technically, a recession means this. It means 2 quarters of contracting year-over-year growth in GDP. And GDP is revenue for the country. 2 quarters in a row, that's technically a recession. Yeah. And the market tries to always discount what's going to happen. Yeah. Okay. And that's why, yeah, I'll leave it at that. It's fine. Okay. All right. Next up, Prem wrote, Sir, Chris, please. Did the present inflationary situation around the globe, is it going to impact the economy and world economy in India as well? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. No country is immune. Countries used to be immune before globalization took place, but we're all attached at the hip. It's going to impact everybody. Yeah. And we almost had a soft landing, but unfortunately, what that prick Putin did is obfuscating that. Yeah. All right, next up, Manas, how are you? Manas is from India as well, where 11% of my students are from. Manas wrote, good morning, my dear mentor. This week, I'm publishing 4 courses on the Metaverse. Very cool, very cool. Nice. I'm actually publishing an NFT course I'm working on. And I'm also doing a course on selling, which should come out in the next couple of days, I think. Yeah, and I wrote a book as well, my first book in several years on how to sell. Yeah, and I'll tell you guys about that another webcast, yeah. All right. You wrote the trailers for the Metaverse rooms you're making as well. Any tips from your side? Yeah. What I would say is whenever you make content, whether you're writing an article or doing a YouTube video or a book or a course, try to get to the bottom line immediately. Less is more. And you want to impart people with an exercise immediately, so they feel like they got good value out of it. Otherwise, you'll get bad ratings. Yeah. All right. Next up, Manas wrote, the Indian Rupee is at its lowest in terms of the US dollar. What are your thoughts on that one? Yeah. So the United States government is raising rates aggressively. And so it makes sense that people in different countries where rates are not going up as much invest in US debt because the US government is paying more. So if the Indian government were to raise interest rates faster than the US government, then what would happen is the Indian Rupee would go up versus the dollar and not vice versa. Yeah, it's all relative. Yeah, and usually United States is a flight to quality. It is what it is. I'm not a pro-America rah-rah-rah guy. It is what it is. You know, when times are tough with economies globally, people tend to put their money in U.S. dollars. It's true. Like in 2008, when people were freaking out and we were within 24 hours of bank machines not working, people bought U.S. dollars and gold. Yeah. Okay. All right. And then Manas wrote, your hairstyle looks dope. Let it grow. You look great. Just a thought. Thank you. A little bit different. I don't know how to try and do something different here. Yeah. Trying to push the goalpost out. All right. Next up, Samir. Hey, Samir. Samir wrote, hey, Chris, it's been a while. It was great to see you again. Do you have any insights on coins sudden drop? I'm an owner, and I'm getting a bit worried, and I'd love to buy more. Yeah. So in general, anything that is speculative is getting murdered. It's because rates are going up. And history does repeat itself. It does. So if you go back to the early 1980s when interest rates were about 20%, all other asset classes did awful. Because, hey, I can keep my money in the bank and make a good return, risk-free. So not many companies were born in the early 80s. And we had to wait until 1986 before we had two half-decent IPOs, with Microsoft and Oracle going public within 1 month of each other. Yeah. Okay. All right, next up, Manos wrote, it's been 11 weeks in the war. Yeah, it's terrible. Do you think Russia will invade Finland? If no, God, no. No way. No way. That would be the end of everything. Yeah, so Finland, as many of you know, it wants to be part of NATO now. And the same thing with Sweden. Yeah. There's no way. And then he wrote, the world market, crypto market are at its lowest peak. What do you think? Yeah. So I love to buy stuff when everyone's freaking out. Right? People sell at the worst time, man. You got to be unemotional about business. What Elon Musk did was absolutely brilliant. So Elon is very successful in part because he's very unemotional. And so in March of 2020, when Tesla was getting decimated, the stock, and all stocks were, he backed up the truck and he bought a lot more shares in his own company. And that's publicly disclosed. Then what he did was he sold a ton of Tesla shares last fall when the market was at its peak, because Elon is very unemotional in general. So you got to be greedy when others are fearful, and fearful when others are greedy. Little side note on Elon with Twitter, if it goes through, looks like it will, I hope. I think he's going to make a 10x return within 10 years, and he'll sell it and take it public again. He is brilliant, and God bless him for protecting free speech. My favorite license plate on this planet is a license plate from the great state of New Hampshire, which says, live free or die. And over the past couple of years, given COVID, the whole world, media especially, okay, is moving more left-wing. And when you move more left-wing, meaning towards communism, that's extreme, but you know what I'm getting at, what happens is freedom of speech dies. So he's standing up for that, and God bless him. I respect him for it. He's not perfect, but I think that this is amazing, and I think it's very generous what he's doing for the whole world. And, of course, he's voting with his wallet. He'll make a fortune. Yeah. All right. And I think one of the things that really made him want to do this on Twitter was, so he lived in Canada for a while as well. He went to Queen's University. And pretty close to Queen's, which is based in Kingston, you've got Ottawa, like 2 hours away. And all these truckers in Canada were rioting in Ottawa a month or two ago. Y'all saw it. And that changed his outlook on free speech, right? He was all for it, rah, 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 peaceful riots, which I love, makes me proud to be Canadian. And that's one of the deciding factors that led him, I believe, to want to buy Twitter. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Alex wrote, very cool. What software do you use for the stream? Oh, thanks. Yeah. So what I do, I'll show you guys behind the scenes here. And in my MBA program, I teach how to use all this stuff and free products as well. I also teach how to use Twitch. Yes, I Twitch stream. So the product I'm using here is called Wirecast. Okay. Now, there's a free version of this product called OBS, which stands for Open Broadcast Software, which you can use if you want to. Similar to Adobe products, this is not Adobe, it's made by Telestream, but similar to Adobe products, it's all based on different layers, right? So I can turn that off in the bottom, etc. Okay, let me go back to this angle here. Okay. Next up, Hari wrote, very good morning, Chris. Hari, good morning to you as well. Great to see you as always. Okay, Manos wrote, Ukraine has 2.5 billion tons of grain, but Russia will never allow it to be out. Do you think it will cause inflation and shortages around the world longer term? I think near term only, near and medium term. Yeah. So it's frustrating because, my dad's from Egypt, and Egypt gets almost all of its food from Ukraine. And Ukraine was set up as part of the USSR, right, the Soviet Union, post-1917, to be the part of the USSR that feeds the rest of the country, right? So it's deadly what's happening right now. GDP there is down 50% for obvious reasons. I'm the eternal optimist. Yeah. But you might want to look at what countries will benefit from this, because they'll get to produce more grains and more other commodities, more other products, right? With life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. I'm not saying we should try to profit from war. It's a disgusting thought, but you know what I'm getting at. Yeah. Okay. All right. And then Manas wrote, I have a bigger nose than you, and I promise that I can't beat you skiing, but I can say nose people think alike. Yeah. And I think that was a comment I made a couple of weeks ago where I was talking about how, I think I was talking about how to put on this stuff. So if anybody if you do a lot of these Zoom webcasts, and this is what actors do, okay? Actors, politicians, everybody in television, they put makeup on you right before you go live. And so I put this on, but I mentioned that I run out really quickly because my nose is massive. It takes me 8 years to put this on here. Yeah. All right. Okay. Next up, Peter from Romania, who's 19 years old, big soccer fan. How are you? It's been a while, man. You wrote, hey, Chris, I want to ask you, what do you think about Steve Jobs and his passion for doing things the right way? Thanks a lot. Yeah. So Apple had the impossible combination of incredibly engineered products and incredible marketing. And Steve Jobs knows how to pull at your heartstrings, or knew, God bless him, and make you passionate about something. And his philosophy was less is more. And so the way he turned the company around 97, 98 was through a marketing campaign that was really emotional because it highlighted really successful people with 2 words, less is more. The 2 words was think different. Also with the iPhone, I mean, there was one button up until when he passed away. It's quite simplistic. All of his products were simple. Simple sells, simple works. And I remember once he went to Stanford University to give a presentation at the business school. And this is after the board of Apple fired him in the late 80s. And this student came up to him and said, hey, I've got an Apple keyboard. Can you sign it? And Steve Jobs looked at it, and it was a keyboard after he left Apple. The keyboard had F1 keys on it, F1 to F20. And he basically said, I'll only sign that if you rip off every single one of those F keys in front of me. And so the student did it, and then Steve signed the back of it. Yeah. So anyway, the bottom line there is that simplicity works, simplicity sells, less is more. Okay. Next up, Manas wrote, if Bitcoin drifts more, will that affect the Metaverse platform in the long run? What are your thoughts? No, it doesn't matter. Like whenever I look to invest in something, any asset class, I'm very long-term focused, and I ask myself a very basic question, which is this. I ask myself, in 5 or 10 years, will the Metaverse be more relevant or less relevant than it is today? Much more relevant. Much more relevant. Yeah. Now, society will always move forward technology-wise, regardless of economic recessions. Yeah. And remember that business is cyclical. Okay, it always is. Market does well, economy grows, economy contracts. The Fed tightens rates, and then you're in a recession, and then eventually comes back. Usually, it's 10-year cycles. Rinse, lather, repeat. Yeah. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Yeah. And I think it was Sir John Templeton. He passed away, but he was the founder of Templeton, and Franklin Templeton's a big company here in the Bay Area. Sir John Templeton said the foremost dangerous words in investing are this. This time it's different. Business is cyclical. We're going to recession, rates are going up, and eventually rates will go down and we won't be in a recession. It's just the way it works. The trick is to be unemotional and back up the truck and buy stocks and asset classes when everybody is selling. Okay. Next question is from Manas, who wrote, thank you for everything, my mentor, Chris, please. God bless you and your family forever and ever. I hope Andrew is doing great at Berkeley. Thank you. Love and affection to y'all. See you next week and forever and ever. And thank you for the emoji. I appreciate that. Yeah. So thank you. My eldest son, he's 18 now. God, they grow fast. He starts Berkeley engineering this summer, or September, I think. Yeah. Yeah. Which is a double-edged sword because I wanted him to go away to get real university experience far away from home and stuff, but he's gonna be close to home, 45 minutes away, so it's good. Yeah. Okay. He just turned 18. It's amazing. God, they grow fast, man. I remember when I was 18. I have the same maturity as I did when I was 13 or 14. I love the same things I did then, and yeah. Okay. Give me 1 second to catch up here. Hold on a second, please. All right, next up, Hui. Oh, Hui, how are you? Hui, we had a great call yesterday. It was wonderful connecting with you. So Hui wrote, I hope you're having a great day. It was great talking with you yesterday. Hui is starting my Platinum MBA program. Starts on June 1st. Hui is from Vietnam originally, and he and his family and his little brother moved to Boston many years ago. And he works at a cybersecurity company. His younger brother just got into medical school. Yeah, he's a great guy. Great guy. Yeah, it's good to see. And he's a big soccer fan as well, just like Peter from Romania here. Looking forward to working with you, brother. Thanks. Zoralina, how are you? Zoralina is in my Silver MBA program, and she is from France originally. She lives in Ontario, Canada. She has 2 cats named Mimi and Mumu, and she's also selling her crepe business as well. Yeah, good to see you, Zoralina. And then you wrote, what is your take on mine stocks? So MINE. If you're referring to any companies that are publicly traded that benefit from directly or indirectly from cryptocurrencies, I say now is the time to start looking at them and buying. Like Coinbase is trading like, I don't know, 4 times earnings. Yeah. So I'd roll up my sleeves and do work on those ones because people are selling the heck out of them because the chart looks like death. Yeah. Okay. Good to see you. All right, and then a donation here. Oh, thank you from Icy, who wrote, I finished your Intro to Finance and Accounting at Udemy course last year. Enjoyed it very much. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for the donation as well. Again, I'll go right to charity. And then, oh wow, Craig Spencer. Craig, thank you, buddy. Who donated $20. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you. Again, that will go to projectmagoo.org. Thank you. You wrote $20 for your favorite coffee. Thanks. Well, my favorite coffee is right here. It's Tim Hortons, and it's a Canadian thing, right? Like we're really proud of this. Is our best brand in Canada. And Tim Hortons used to be a hockey player, played for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I have that prop here as well. Played for the Toronto Maple Leafs. This is from when I explained puts and calls in my MBA program. But in Canada, it's interesting because Tim Hortons has 70% market share versus Starbucks in the United States. Starbucks has like 40% market share. We call it $4. It's so expensive. But no, this is near and dear to my heart. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. God bless you. All right. Prem said, how are you, sir? Call me Chris, please. I'm always great. Thanks. And I hope you're doing well as well. Okay, and then Craig wrote, Anjan Vinod, a venture capitalist from Parafi Capital, uses the same research framework and strategies that you teach. I still can't believe you sell this course so cheap. Thank you. Thank you. My mission is to make education affordable for the masses. Yeah. And the profits I make, I use to build schools and stuff and scholarships. Thank you. Yeah. All right. All right, next up, Hari wrote, one of my, and thank you for that comment. One of my colleagues suggested to rephrase, I don't care, with just don't bother. Is the latter more polite, Chris? What are your opinions on this? Yeah, bother, it's more of a British thing when people say bother. It's like Americans saying care. So it's euphemism, I guess. Yeah, either works, yeah. Okay. All right, S, good morning, how are you? Georgiev. And if I mispronounce anyone's names, please let me know because I don't want to disrespect anybody at all. You wrote, I need to do that. I'll work 7 days a week. I work 7 days a week and I'm tired of it. Yeah, you got to take your breaks, always. All right, next up, we got M. Pereira who wrote, what do you think of the CFI Institute in Canada? Yeah, I'm not sure what that is. If you want to provide me with more details, I can tell you more about it, but I don't have any knowledge on that. I'm sorry. Yeah. All right. Next up, Hari wrote, I work for 5 days and I relax without plans for the next 2 days. That's a great way to go, man. If you can take every Saturday and Sunday off, you're golden. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Christina, how are you? Christina is the head of the Haroun Education Ventures Alumni Network. She's our fearless leader. That's what my other students call her. Good to see you. Christina wrote, good morning, Chris, and our amazing global MBA webcast family. Hope you're having an outstanding week so far. Thank you. Likewise. Cheers, Chris. I'm at the 9 a.m. waterline in 400 steps. How about you? Yeah. So for me, I am at, let's see here. I'm at about 10 a.m. In terms of my steps, I've taken basically no steps today. But when this call's done, I'll be walking on my treadmill under my feet. I'm at 200 steps, yeah. All right. Good to see you. All right. Next question is, do you think the inflation will help the United States by reducing their external debt they owe to other countries? No, it's quite the opposite. So what happens is the way to fight inflation is the United States government will sell more bonds. Okay, so for example, earlier in the call, I mentioned how I'm making 9.62% on that debt instrument, which Christina bought as well. And Christina, thank you for inspiring me to talk about that today. But when you buy debt from the U.S. government, like a bond, okay, you give them money. Okay, so what's happening is the U.S. is more in debt now. They're in debt to me. And it's not just me or Christina that buys that 9.62% bond. Other countries do, and banks in other countries as well. So the debt is increasing. Yeah. Okay. Next up, CMA wrote, hi, Chris. Good morning. And thank you for the heart emoji. Right back at you. Then we have somebody who wrote in Japanese here. Hajime mashite. Hope you know well. Wrote, hey, Chris, what do you think about the company that just IPO'd? Is it worth buying? By the way, I played Red Dead Redemption 2. I just watched Arthur die. Oh, he dies? I didn't know that. Okay. Just kidding. Yeah, so in terms of any company that just IPO'd, so right now is a terrible time to do an IPO. And I know for a fact that investment bankers are advising their clients that want to go public not to go now. It's the wrong time to go public, because when you go public, usually what happens is the stock is priced at a 30% discount, and on day one it jumps 30%. Those stocks are not jumping. They're broken IPOs. They're going down on day one. Yeah. So now is not the right time to IPO. If there's a company that went public that's getting murdered, then you might want to roll up your sleeves and do a thorough due diligence analysis on the company using one of the many tools I provide you with in my MBA degree program. Yeah. Okay. All right. And then Your Great Tough wrote, I'm so excited to start the MBA program on the 1st. Awesome. I'm looking forward to having you join us. It's going to be fun. Yeah. And then Samir wrote, thanks for the tip, Chris, on Treasury Direct Bonds. Quick question. When should we think about selling these? Yeah. I would think about selling when rates go down a lot. Okay, so when I was a kid growing up in Canada, people always talked about Canada savings bonds. And they did it because, I was a child of the 60s and the early 80s when interest rates were close to 20%. It was a no-brainer to buy Canadian savings bonds, just like it's a no-brainer to buy American savings bonds now. Then what happened was rates stayed ridiculously low for decades, and the younger generation doesn't even know what savings bond means. Well, now that rates and inflation is close to 10%. People are starting to realize that, hey, this savings bond thing works. So you can own it for 30 years. Okay, so what happens is when you buy it, it's like your typical debt instrument, like a mortgage, 30 years. You can own it for 30 years. And after 30 years, you just sell it and buy another one if you want to. Or don't sell it, leave it in your retirement account and don't pay taxes. Yeah. So the way it works, though, is you can, if you sell it in less than 1 year, you pay penalties. If you sell it in less than 5 years, you pay smaller penalties, but still some, meaning you lose 1 quarter or 3 months worth of interest, which is not that bad. Yeah, you can sell anytime you want to. And the time to sell it is when interest rates go down a lot, right? So when the economy is improving a year or two from now, or whatever it is, longer maybe, and the government starts cutting interest rates, right? Yeah. All right. But buy them for your kids or give them as gifts, etc. All right, next up, Zishan wrote, Chris, my question is whether transferring crypto from hot wallets to cold wallets attracts tax even if both of them belong to me? No. Only taxable events occur when you sell something. Okay, so if I were to transfer a Bitcoin that I own from a Coinbase wallet, which is a hot wallet because it requires electricity to be on, that's why I call it a hot wallet. So if I were to transfer Bitcoin from Coinbase to a cold wallet, like a Ledger Nano S, it's called cold because it's USB based and doesn't need a hot computer on to work. You wouldn't pay taxes on that. You only pay taxes when you sell it and you make a profit. And that's why a lot of billionaires in the United States and globally, their tax rate is close to zero. Because if they don't sell shares in their companies that year, they don't pay tax, which is problematic. And so Jeff Bezos back in 2017, or 2007, when he was a billionaire, what Jeff Bezos did was not only did he not pay any tax, but he collected $4,000 per child that he has for dependent tax reasons. I know it's not fair, but it is what it is. And the 400 richest families in the United States pay an average tax rate of about 22%. That's really low compared to the highest tax bracket, which is about 40%, close to it here in America. And again, the reason is because you have to have a taxable event, meaning realize a profit in order to pay taxes. Yeah. And for more details on cryptocurrency taxes and what to watch out for, just you could do a search on me and NBC. I was interviewed on television a couple of years ago on that. Yeah. Okay. All right, next up, I have got Hari wrote, is it worth buying growth stocks in rate-sensitive sectors? Yeah. So everything has value. Everything is worth something. If there are stocks that you love, that you want to own for the long run, and they're getting absolutely murdered, they're oversold, then I would start buying them or add to those positions. But I want you to value the companies based on your earnings estimates in 5 to 10 years, which I teach in my MBA program in a lot of detail. And so I've always prided myself on buying stocks in companies that everybody thinks are expensive, but I think they're cheap. So for example, years ago, I owned Amazon. And people would say, Chris, you're crazy to buy Amazon. It's a widow maker. You're crazy to buy it because it's trading at 100 times earnings. And I would say, no, it's trading at 3 times earnings. 3 times my earnings estimate based on my financial model in 5 or 10 years. And again, I teach that in my MBA program in a lot of detail. Okay, it's getting chilly. Okay. All right, give me 1 second, guys, here. And if I miss anybody's questions, paste it again, please. Yeah. All right, so next up, we got Priyam. Hey, Priyam, who wrote, hello, Chris. You look awesome. Thank you. It's the makeup. And, you know, maybe he's beautiful. Maybe it's Maybelline. Yeah. That's an old commercial. I don't know if you remember that one. No, thank you. Thank you. And you wrote, I've worked in a corporate for 3 years. How do you know that your career is the one for you? And when do you think it's time to switch your career or start something new? And that rhymed. That was a great question. Very, very prophetic and poetic at the same time. So I would say if you wake up in the morning and you tell yourself you're going to work, and I say this with love in my heart, with all due respect, you're doing it wrong. You got to find your passion and your purpose. And I get it. We all need to make money to survive. But at some point, we got to say enough is enough. I'm on this planet to accomplish this thing here, whatever that might be. I want to put my dent in the universe. And I can't do it by working for this company. So again, if you get up in the morning and tell yourself you're going to work, that's when you know you got to change careers. Another way to know what your passion is as follows. If I were to tell you, you're given 3 months off, okay, and you're not allowed to travel and you're not allowed to go to work, what are you going to do with your time? Whatever it is, and I don't care what anybody says, but whatever that is, that's your passion, your purpose, your raison d'être, and that's what you should be doing. Another way to know what your passion is in life is you ask yourself, who is a rock star to me in business? You know, who's your Bono or, I don't know, John Lennon or whoever it is in business? Whoever that is, that might be your passion. And if it's Sir Richard Branson, for example, or Elon Musk, than be a voracious readers of their autobiographies or books written about them. And very successful people, what they do is they help people. And that's one of the reasons they became successful. And once they generate a ton of wealth, they want to share their knowledge with the world. And so what they'll do is they'll write an autobiography. So what you have to do is listen to those autobiographies. I just finished a great book by Matthew McConaughey, all right, called Green Light. And he shares his secrets for success. So check that out if you get a chance. Yeah. Get a subscription to Audible and just understand that successful people want to help you. And their cards are down when they become successful because they give all their secrets and their blueprints of success away in books. Yeah. And that will help you work smarter, not harder. And it'll inspire you too. And I want you to work hard so you can turn your idols into your rivals. All right. Next up, Asil wrote, currently I'm enrolled in your MBA. I'm learning so much. Thanks so much. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Asil. God bless you. Thanks. Okay. And then next up, I've got here. Oh, wow. Thank you for another donation, Icy. I appreciate that. Thank you. $10 donation, Australian dollars. I think they'll go, again, directly to Project Magoo. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. God bless you. So you wrote here, Chris, YouTuber coach, Red Pill, and in brackets you put Gonzalo Lira, says that the U.S. currency will crash soon and will lose its status of being a reserve currency due to countries dependent on Russian oil. Yeah. I look. Russia has a sizable oil market, but they're not the only country in the world that has oil. There's many others. Yeah, many others. Yeah. So I'm more bullish longer term. I think the United States is relevant as long as people still see it as a safe economy in terms of a flight to quality. There's a reason why the United States dollar goes up when times are tough, because more people put their money in greenbacks, U.S. dollars. Yeah, and it's been that way since World War II. So how did America get here? So in the Constitution, the way that Thomas Jefferson wrote. And I think he's one of the first minister of finances. He's on the $20 bill. He looks like Mick Jagger, or Keith Richards, I should say. So the way the Constitution was created was America is a land of a lot of immigrants that came from Europe. And they created a system here that's all the best stuff that worked in Europe, like greatest hits and more. And the DNA subfabric of the American system, so to speak, is the fact that they can get access to debt by lending money out to different countries or buying back that debt from different countries. And so after World War II, what happened was Europe was in shambles for obvious reasons. And America kind of became the banker of Europe. Okay, and so people saw the United States as kind of a flight to quality because they're financing Europe. And it's kind of happening again right now. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, Azoralina wrote, I'm looking at the Tesla stock while listening to you. It's losing so much and the RSI is getting closer to 20. It might be a chance to buy a couple of shares. Yeah. And I think you're in my silver MBA. And if you want, during our office hours at 10 a.m., the Zoom call, let's talk about that in more detail. Okay. Next up, Christina wrote, Chris, is there a difference between buying the iSavings bond in electronic versus paper form? Is one better than the other, or is it the same? It's the same thing. Yeah. And they're slowly phasing that out as well. So if you go to treasurydirect.com and you do a search on paper versus electronic, you'll see the difference there as well. Yeah. And I think electronics started to become available at Treasury Direct back in 2009. Yeah. All right. And then Andre wrote, good morning, Chris. Good morning, Andre. Hope you're doing well. Can you please explain how to set up an appointment with on your calendar? Thank you for your fantastic job. Yeah, thanks so much. I'd love to talk to you. And anybody that's interested in thinking about doing the gold or platinum version of my MBA degree, just go to my website, which is harounmba.com, and then just click right here, okay? And then when you click here, you can just click and set up a time. Yeah. So you click confirm, and that's how it works. And then it's basically a Zoom call. Yeah. And if you have additional questions about that, please let me know. And thanks as always. Okay. Okay, next up we got Mike Hill wrote, can you say something on the MBA program, please? Accreditation, employment recognition, etc. Yeah, yeah. So if you want to learn more about the MBA program, you can go to my website, and I did a call. I think it was like a week or two ago, 2 Fridays ago, I think. Yeah. You can scroll down. Or did I not put it here? I thought it was here. Let me see. Let me hit refresh. Should be right coming up here. Oh, wow. I guess we took it out. Okay. So what you can do is just go to my YouTube channel. So you go to about weekly webcasts, and you can get to my YouTube channel this way. All right. So here we are right now. So you just go to my weekly webcasts, and you can get to my YouTube channel this way. Go to the, oh my God, I'm really butchering this one, guys. But go here and you'll find it. Here it is here. Yeah. It's called Invest in Yourself. Okay, it's my annual open house, and just watch the first hour where I talk about the MBA in more details. And what you can also do is if you go to my homepage, which is harounmba.com, if you scroll down, you can see the Q&A here. And I just changed this using a new plugin. So you can watch videos on what the program is all about, what you'll learn, all that stuff. Yeah. Okay. And if you have additional questions after reading this, please let me know. Thank you. All right. Okay. Here we go. All right. Okay. And then Zishan wrote, I've done your crypto module in the EMS class for the first semester. That's economics management and strategy. It was so enlightening and fascinating. Thank you. And I appreciate that. Thank you. And for anybody out there that's curious about the MBA program, I have a 30-day 100% money back guarantee. So what that means is this. We start June 1st. So if you buy today, and positions are limited, but if you buy today, what happens is you get your money back all the way up until 30 days after June 1st, meaning July 1st. It's risk-free, kind of like U.S. Treasury Direct. Yeah. Okay. Great. All right, next up, Patrick wrote, hey, Chris, since U.S. dollar is a fiat currency and we are in debt up to the eyeballs, how long can we sustain printing money the way we are doing it today? Bitcoin seems to be the way to go. Yeah. So the reason that Bitcoin exists was back in 2009, January 2009. Satoshi Nakamoto, if that person exists, was really frustrated with the United States government and all governments printing too much money. And so the first Bitcoin transaction or message sent between Satoshi and somebody else was the cover of the Times in the United Kingdom, which talked about bank bailouts, right? So there's a reason why cryptos exist. It's because of federal government overspending. Yeah. So in terms of how long is it until the U.S. goes bankrupt? Well, it all depends on if people want to still buy U.S. debt. And people have been saying for decades that, oh my God, the U.S. has so much debt, they're going to go belly up. You don't run a country like it's a company. The United States will go bankrupt if and when most countries don't want to buy U.S. debt anymore. But everybody still sees the United States as a flight to quality. So the United States dollar goes up in value when the whole world is in a recession. It's a flight to quality. The music will stop when people stop buying U.S. debt. But as of now, it's still seen as the most stable place to invest in the world. Yeah. And given globalization, China, for example, China and America, they're frenemies, right? They have different ideologies, capitalism versus communism, but they're friends because they trade a lot with each other. And so the Chinese government buys a lot of U.S. debt as well. Tons of it. And they can't stop. Because if China doesn't support the U.S., then China will have massive civil unrest because exports from China come to America. And so America and China are attached at the hip. That's why I call them frenemies. And so the United States dollar, it used to be backed by gold. It was backed by silver in the 1800s, then by gold in the 1900s. And then what happened was President Richard Nixon in 1972, before he was impeached, what he did was he took the United States dollar off the gold standard. So the United States dollar is not backed by gold. It's backed by the full faith and credit of the United States government. And the United States government has never missed payments. Yeah. It's all relative. One value, a value of one currency versus another one is all relative as well. Everything is relative. Okay. Cool. Okay, and then Sadiq said you skipped you skipped my question. Did I? I thought I read it. You wrote, "Good morning. How are you doing?" You shared about getting a meeting with anyone. Can you explain that to me? Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought that you were talking about the Calendly meeting. That was another question. I'll go there right now. I'm so sorry. And thanks for calling me Chich. That's my or Chichi. That's my nickname when I was a little kid, because I couldn't say my name. You can't name a kid Christopher. He just won't be able to say that. So it became Chrissy and then Chichi. Yeah. And my little sister's name is Elizabeth. That's even harder to say. Yeah. I used to call her Lizard Breath, which would make her cry. Elizabeth, if you're watching, I love you so much. I'm kidding. And Katie, if you're watching my other sister, I love you too. And I'm sorry for calling you Lizard Breath. Your name is Elizabeth. Yeah. Okay. All right. So Sadiq's question is, hey, Chris, good morning. Good morning. How are you doing? I'm always great. Once you shared about getting a meeting with anyone, can you please explain that for me? Also, one of the programming courses launching. Yeah. So the programming courses are launching exclusively in my MBA program only. Yeah. And I'll be using a lot of props as well to teach coding in a different and more fun way. So this here is a sub procedure. So the top is the sub, the bottom is the end sub. In the middle, this is my 3D printer. In the middle are functions, variables, etc. I'll be teaching it with a lot of different props as well in a fun way. I'm going to make programming the easiest way to learn it on the planet by taking my MBA program. So for example, when you think like a computer, the way a computer would think and turn this eraser from pink to green is a computer starts big then small. The computer would say pencil.eraser.color equals green. So I'm using a lot of props. Again, there won't be courses on it. They'll be exclusively available to people that buy my MBA program. And anybody that's already bought my MBA program or will buy my MBA program get all new additions to the MBA program for free forever. Yeah. Okay. And the first programming modules are coming later this year. Yeah. A lot going on behind the scenes. I'm having so much fun working on it. Yeah. All right. Okay, in terms of getting a meeting with anyone, the best thing to do if you want to learn how to get a meeting with anybody, aside from taking the MBA program, so I go into that in a lot more detail, is you go directly to my website, which is harounmba.com. MBA stands for Married But Available. I'm just kidding. It does not stand for that. I'm happily married forever. I'm just an idiot. Okay, and then you scroll down. I think it's the bottom here. Yeah. Go to the bottom here, yeah. And what you can do is you can download this book for free called Networking to Get Customers, a Job, or Anything You Want. It's a couple hundred pages. And I've raised and managed humbly over $1 billion in my career, and I kind of teach you how to meet with people and all that stuff here. Yeah. And there's a couple hours of YouTube videos you can get access to through this book as well. Yeah. All right. All right. Give me 1 second, guys. All right, so next up, and if I missed any other questions, let me know here, guys. Sometimes a bunch come at the same time. Yeah. All right. Question is from Andre, who wrote, Chris, how do companies and people short a stock? Yeah. So the way to short a stock, so shorting a stock is the opposite of buying a stock. So people say, I'm going long a stock, like in football. That's owning a stock. The opposite is shorting. And the way it works is as follows. So let me see if I have a prop here. I do. Good. All right. So I've got a share of Coca-Cola here. So let me walk through how to short a stock using Coke as an example. So places like Goldman Sachs, what they do is they make a lot of money by having kind of like what's a casino. And a casino is basically a big floor of people betting. And Goldman Sachs has a big trading floor. And what they do is they have clients that are hedge funds. And these hedge fund clients, They buy stocks, meaning they go long them, and they short stocks as well. But Goldman has to play a part in it. Okay, and a lot of other Wall Street firms have their own trading floors. So Goldman Sachs has a division called a prime brokerage. And what a prime brokerage firm does is they lend you shares. Okay, stock loan business. So for example, if I wanted to short Coca-Cola, what I would do if I'm a hedge fund is my trader would call up Goldman Sachs and say, hey, I want to short Coca-Cola, ticker KO. Can you lend me those shares? And the Goldman Sachs trader says, give me a second, let me look into it. Okay. Usually it happens really fast, but they'll say this. The Goldman Sachs trader will then call a shareholder of Coke, for example, Fidelity, which is a large mutual fund company in Boston. And the Goldman Sachs trader will call Fidelity and say, hey, I have a hedge fund client that wants to short Coca-Cola, ticker KO. I know that you own a lot of shares in Coca-Cola. Can I lend him those shares? And because I know you told me you never want to sell Coke. You're a long-term investor. And what I'll do is I'll pay you, I don't know, my client will pay you 1% per month that he short Coca-Cola. Do you want to do it? Okay, great. Bye. Goldman Sachs calling the person who wants to short now in the hedge fund. I have a client that said he'll lend the shares to you at a fee of 1% per month. Okay. Do you want to do it? Okay, cool. Great. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to lend these shares to you. So what happens next is this. Goldman Sachs will take Fidelity's shares of Coca-Cola, and Goldman will lend them to that hedge fund. Okay. So let's say that they lend them to the hedge fund and the price of Coke is $50 a share. So what happens is the hedge fund is borrowing them and pays a fee to Goldman and has to return these shares at $50 a share. Okay. No matter what, $50. Remember that number. Now, the hedge fund kind of sort of owns those shares. I'm the hedge fund over here. And what I do is I then sell these shares to somebody else. And the other person, might have bought the shares for $50. And then what happens is the shares go down. So Coke goes down to, say, $40. So it's gone down $10. It's amazing. So what happens is the hedge fund then says, hey, I want those shares back. The hedge fund will buy those shares back for only $40, right? So they made $10 in profit. Then they'll return those shares to Goldman Sachs and say, thank you. Here's a 1% fee because I was short it for a month. And yeah, they'll make a $10 spread. That's how it works. And so it's called a stock loan business or prime brokerage business. And all major investment banks have those sort of things. Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. Next up, Zishan wrote, Chris, in India, they've recently started, and I lost like 6 people explaining that. So obviously I didn't do a good job there. Sorry. Zishan wrote, Chris, in India, recently they've started taxing cryptos at 30%. Also, as per the provision, it is mentioned that transferring between wallets is also taxable. That adds a lot of confusion. Oh, I didn't realize that. It happened in India. Wow. Now, because the government is taxing cryptos, that's a positive thing for cryptos. I'll tell you why. Because they're not making it illegal. Okay. And then Zishan wrote, I've done your crypto module. Thank you. It's enlightening and fascinating. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, next up we got Patrick who wrote, hey, Chris, since US dollar is a fiat currency, fiat means paper-based currency. Okay, this is fake money, but yeah. Since the US dollar is a fiat currency and we are in debt up to the eyeballs, I read that one already. Sorry. I scrolled up because I missed a question. I got that one. Okay. Next up, Arthur wrote, greetings from Adelaide, Australia. I'm loyal. It's 1:50 a.m. and counting. LOL. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. I love Australia. You wrote, are you behind with replies for upgrade from silver to gold? My email was 72 hours ago. Thanks in advance. Huh. So you sent it. Let me do a search right now. See if I can find it. And I'm fully transparent as always. Okay. So I will go to your name. I'm so sorry. Is Arthur. It's also the name of the hero in the game I'm playing now, Red Dead Redemption Part 2. So I'll do a search on Arthur. Let's see here. Arthur. Yeah, I don't see you here. Huh. Did you send it? Yeah, I don't see it. If you emailed upgrade@harounventures.com, I might see it there. Let me go to my support desk. And by the way, this product I'm using is called Freshdesk. It's free to use for customer support. It's awesome. Okay, so what I'll do is here I will search for Arthur, see if I can find it here. Arthur. Oops. Try again. Search ticket. I have no full-time employees. Everything is done through technology here. Arthur, that's a different Arthur. Yeah, I don't see it. So if you want, what you can do is you can email support@harounventures.com and I'll answer that question for you. And I'll give you a discount as well because you already bought silver. So you'll get a discount from me. Yeah. Okay. And a company is only as good as its customer service. So clearly I'm not doing a good job. Sorry. Okay. And then Christina wrote, did you get the iSavings bond 10 grand max for each of your boys or just you? Yeah. Well, it's all about me because I got it just for me. There's no I in Chris, you know. No, I got it for Christina and my wife, Christine. And we're doing the boys next. Yeah. Yeah. And we maxed out our kids, humbly, educational savings account years ago. So, and for anybody out there that, like, after you max out your 401k every year, your retirement savings program, if you have the luxury, and I'm older, but if you have the luxury to do so, make sure that you max out your educational savings account for your kids as well. It's tax-free. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Sadiq wrote, thanks, Chris. And I remember you and Elizabeth's names from Weekly Webcast with Elizabeth, my sister. Oh, yeah, I did that one. That was the webcast number 50. I did that in Mississauga, Ontario, Canada, at my parents' house. And my parents were watching it in the other room. You wrote, I've been following you since 2018 when I took your course on Udemy. That's how I got to know about you. Thank you. No, I appreciate it. Thank you for remembering my nickname as well. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Manas wrote, my mentor, Gary, is divorcing his wife for a Persian girl. A 23-year-old girl. That's terrible, isn't it? I don't know who Gary is. Do you mean, is it Gary Vaynerchuk? I didn't even know he was married. Yeah. Okay. And then he wrote here, the Indian government has taxed cryptos at 60% total. Oh, I thought it was 30. Okay. And they're treating it as gambling in casinos. I don't get why. Yeah. So a lot of governments view cryptocurrencies. Oh, you wrote. Oh, so Gary Vee is getting divorced. Oh, I didn't realize he was married. Yeah. So a lot of countries view crypto. Alexa just started talking for some reason. A lot of countries view cryptocurrencies as the biggest threat to national security. Because if a government, wants to defend itself or declare war, God forbid, governments don't make enough money from taxes to do that. So what they do is they issue bonds. Okay, so what happens is like war savings bonds, like in this image right here from a great Captain America movie, right? So back in the 1940s, this is fictitious, obviously, but in the 40s, the United States government paid a lot of money for marketing. And there was Uncle Sam, who's the American government, saying, I want you to buy United States bonds. And it was a patriotic thing to do. And if people bought bonds, what would happen is I'm a consumer, okay, and I'm buying bonds from the government. So I give the government money. This is fake money, okay? In return, the government gives me a bond. And they take this money, they take some of it out of circulation, and some of it they use to buy tanks, aircrafts, whatever, machine guns and all awful stuff. Now, the reason that people do that is because they believe in the full faith and credit of the United States government to be able to return that, to pay off the debt. Okay, you get a nice return on it. Now, if let's say 100% of people didn't want to buy U.S. debt or U.S. dollars, they wanted to buy Bitcoin instead, hypothetically, then the United States would not be able to defend themselves. or invest in, I don't know, weapons, whatever it is. And so that's why it's the largest threat to national security, cryptocurrencies, that is, in lots of countries. And the more unstable a country is, meaning the less confidence that country has in their ability to rule, the more likely it is they're going to make cryptos illegal, like Russia, for example. And in this this Platinum MBA class coming out soon, I gave a full scholarship to a guy who lost everything. He lives in Moscow. Yeah. So, and whenever I criticize Russia, it's a criticism of Putin and not the wonderful Russian people. Yeah. Okay. And then Ali wrote, weekly webcast 50 was dope. Yaba is very beautiful. Yeah, she's great. She's great. No, she's if you want to see what I would look like if I were a woman, I'll show you. She's a splitting image of me. She's beautiful. I'm not. Okay, new ticket here. This is probably that support. Here we go. Arthur. Okay, thanks, Arthur. I'll respond to this later today. Thanks. All right. But if you want to see what I would look like, let's go to my website. There's lots of filter products you can use for this, like Snapchat, to see what you look like as a girl. So I'll go to weekly webcast here. Okay. And then what I'll do here is, I'm going to go here to webcast 50. Let's see, hold on. So many of them, man, I tell you. Oh, yeah, so I was teaching about Nintendo. That was a fun class. Yeah, so we're almost there. Oh, there's so many of these calls, man. This is what I looked like before I aged. That's webcast number 1 right here with my cheap little webcam. I remember that. Yeah. I was nervous then, man. I always had to prepare scripts because there's no one asking questions, eh? Okay, so here we go. It's number 50. That's Wrigley. Used to work with me as my student at SF State years ago. These are my kids and I watching the Blue Jays game. This is me in Barcelona. And that's me and Dylan. We went to the Paul McCartney concert. Here it is here. This here is Elizabeth, my little sister. We call her. I'll mute that. I call her Yaba. Yeah, this was fun, man. This is years ago. That's right. So here I am here in my Joshua Tree shirt, which I wore yesterday. I still have it, back in my old hairstyle. Let me see where's Yaba. She comes on in a second here. Where's she at? Maybe she's at the beginning. Oh, here she is. Here. Yeah. She's right here. So if I was a woman, I would look like this. Here she is here. And she's drinking Tim Hortons coffee. You see it there in her hand. Okay. Tim Hortons coffee. Yeah. And and on her arm, you can see she actually has the names of her kids in Arabic on her arm. I don't know if you can see it. And I remember teasing her that day that, way to go, Elizabeth, you're on the no-fly list now. Just kidding. That was a bad joke. Awful. But this is her, which helps a lot of people. It's basically what I do. Yeah. So anyway, that's my little sister.
I teased you or something. The good Chichi and the bad Chichi?
Oh, yeah. What was well, what is Chichi?
Oh, Chichi. I guess I don't know Chichi. Well, that's Chris's nickname. So he's Chichi to us. How did you get that from Jamie?
I have no idea.
So he's Chich. Yeah. That's what we know him.
Yeah. We don't know how to say names in our family. So she's Yaba, because Elizabeth's hard to pronounce. And I guess my mom called me Christopher. Chrissy. Yeah. That's how I became Chichi.
Yeah.
Okay, good Chichi, bad Chichi.
Yeah, good Chichi, bad Chichi. Yeah. So there was like duality to Chris. Like, I think there was like just a fun, maybe darker side to him, liking to tease his sisters on a not so sweet level, but always fun,
What was a good Chichi and bad Chichi?
So he would go behind the curtains sometimes when I was younger. And he would come out as the bad Chichi, like he would make us think that he was a different person, and he would, chase us around and maybe do not nice things, or
like what?
Oh my God, the donkey rides were the worst. So Katie is our sister. She's 16 months older than I am.
Love you, Katie.
Love Katie. And Chris would give Katie, a horsey back ride, and she would ride on his back, and it'd be so much fun. They'd go around, and he'd be like, okay, yeah, but it's your turn. And I was so excited, like I finally got attention, and I would get on his back to go for a ride, and he would go, and he would fall asleep, and it was hard for me.
It was hard. I'm so sorry.
It was funny. It's really not a big deal.
It's awful.
He was sweet.
You were going to file a lawsuit then?
I really was. I was on the cusp.
I'm sorry.
I was on the cusp.
Awful. Now you all know I'm just an awful person.
The best.
It's out there. It's out there.
The best.
It's cool.
It's true.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we have here.
Okay.
That was fun. I love you, Yaba. Okay. Yes, I teased my sisters a lot growing up. Yeah. It was terrible. Yeah. Awful. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let me see what I got next here. Yeah. So you said you know about the good and bad chichi. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Good day, Chris. Hope all is well from Super G. How are you? Okay. So, and Ali said, I remember the good chichi and the bad chichi. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, it was Mother's Day, and I wrote my wife a beautiful poem. I said, roses are red, violets are blue. I'm a schizophrenic, and so am I. So I hope you love all my multiple personalities. Yeah, I'm just kidding. All right, so next up we got Sadiq who wrote, Tim Hortons is entering India, and I'm excited. Oh, awesome. That way you can have the best drink with the best food ever. The best drink is, of course, Tim Hortons. And the best food ever made is dosa. Yeah, I love dosa. It's the best food ever. Anybody out there that goes to Indian restaurants around the world, yeah. Chicken tandoori and stuff is great. It's good. All that stuff is good. It's amazing food. But you don't know good food unless you ask for dosa. And if you don't see it on the menu, ask the waiter if they have dosa. I'm telling you, it's the most incredible food ever made. It's like the first time I tried Krispy Kreme in New York City, fresh out of the oven donuts. Dosa, way better than Krispy Kreme. Dosa, good. Everyone try it. Yeah. All right. Yeah. And then Sadiq said, and you remember that as well. There she is sharing about the good and bad chichi. Yeah. There's good. Yeah. The good and bad chichi. And my sense of humor has not changed since then either. Yeah. Oh my God. I teased them so much. It was so fun. Yeah. Never bad stuff, but well, maybe. Yeah. And then Ali wrote, Yaba also revealed that Chris predicted that newspapers would one day be read through a digital platform. He saw the future. Yeah. I don't. It's interesting because I remember Warren Buffett years ago. I was at this investment conference, and there was a panel on the future of newspapers, and on the panel was the CEO of the New York Times. Vanity Fair, which is so left. I can't stand Vanity Fair anymore. That sort of thing. But anyway, there's a panel there, and they were talking about the future of newspapers. And Warren Buffett was in the audience, and he put his hands up, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, Warren Buffett has his hand up." The whole room went silent, and so the moderator's like, "Yes, Mr. Buffett," and Warren Buffett said, "If the internet was invented first, would we still have newspapers?" And you could hear a pin drop. It was so quiet. It was brilliant. And Warren Buffett is successful because his approach to communicating is so simplistic. Like, you never watch an interview with Warren Buffett and say, "I'm confused now." He can communicate. He's amazing. Yeah. And I think the same way as well, obviously not nearly as intelligent as him, but I think the same way as well when it comes to technology. I think to myself, if Zoom was invented before office buildings, would we still go to offices? Yes, but not as much. And the whole notion is ridiculous of getting into a car, destroying the environment and your health and your social life, driving for 1 or 2 hours every day to go into a big city, to go up an elevator. Oh my, what a waste of time. I believe in human interaction and face-to-face, but not all the time. Think about how much better the world would be if we all didn't drive to work every day, right? If a lot of it just work from home part of the time. The environment would be better. We'd have more time to exercise. We'd have more time to socialize, more time to mentor our kids, especially when they're teenagers. Everything would work out great. And so I love that question Buffett asked. And I think of the same thing as well. I think of, in 5 years or 10 years, is this product or technology going to be more relevant or less relevant than it is today? You keep it simple, and that's how you become a better investor. Okay. All right. And Sadiq wrote, every brother teases his sister, though. It's true. It's true. It was fun, though. And I'm just grateful that this guy here, Dylan, is the youngest brother and not the oldest, because he is a splitting image of me. Yeah, and he would have terrorized these guys. Yeah. But he's youngest. He's tough as nails, too. Yeah. He's 12 now, going on 30. Yeah. He's a pain in the neck. I love him to death. But I brought him down to my studio, and I was so proud. Let me show you guys something here. So what I did was last week I asked one of my students to send me a picture of where he lives so I can put it in the background. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. Hold on one second, guys. One second. All right, so I'm going to go to capture card and try to turn on green screen. It's not working. Why is that? Damn it. All right, let me try it again. I'll try this angle here. Okay, there we go. Hold on. It's coming. All right, hold on a second. Oh, that's right. It's a different backdrop than before. But anyway, I showed him the backdrop here, and I was all proud of what I had set up. And he, there it is. Good. Okay, yeah, here it is here. Okay, so this here is the backdrop of one of my students. Actually, it's David from Jakarta, right? And so and you can see that the camera actually is moving a little bit here as well. Beautiful day. So I showed him this, right? And I was really proud of it because I'm a nerd. And I brought him down here, Dylan, and he looked at it and he goes, "Dad, so what? That's 30 seconds of my life I'll never get back." Very sarcastic. And then he said, "Dad, Uber me upstairs immediately." It's a thing he has. And Uber me, Daddy Uber, means I have to carry him upstairs. It's Daddy Uber. It is what it is. Yeah. But anyway, he's pretty funny. And let me change this up slightly so I can get the threshold a bit better. So this works better. Hold on a second. There we go. How fun is that, eh, guys? How fun is that? Yeah. Amazing. Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay, great. I'll do another question this way. Again, this is from David, who's in my platinum program. And that's Jakarta, where he lives. Yeah. Good guy. All right. All right. Next up, it's me, Amina, wrote epic pickup lines. It's me, Mario. Epic pickup lines. I don't know. Who stole the stars from the skies and put them in your eyes? Or you can say, do you have a quarter? Because I want to call my mom and tell her I fell in love. Nobody gets that. Like what payphones, no one knows what that means anymore. But yeah. All right. Okay, Ajay, how are you, man? All right, and then Zishan wrote, Chris, you seem to like dosa too much. Great to hear. Oh, it's so good. My favorite is I go to, it's called Rasa, I think is the name of the Indian restaurant here in Burlingame. And I get it's called the Bollywood dosa. And I get 3 or 4 orders. And I'm full after the first one, but I don't care. It's so good. Yeah. It's the best food ever. Yeah. This is cool. This here is my water. There you go. You can see the mountain a little bit better. Yeah. Pretty wild, eh? Whoa. A little bit of wind there. Okay. All right. Next up, Hari wrote, Chris, what did you have with the dosa? Do you remember the side dish for dosa? I'm eager to know, as I love dosa, and I eat often in India where I live. Also, okay, I had dosa twice in my India trip. So in 2016, when I worked in VC, I would teach during the evenings for fun at a school called the Halt International School of Business. And what happened was Halt said, hey, do you want to go and teach in India? We'll pay for everything. It was like a marketing thing for the school. And so I was like, yeah, sure. And so I went to Mumbai, and it was an incredible trip. And what happened was at the airport in Mumbai, and I went to Delhi as well. I loved it. Very peaceful, animals walking around. I loved it. What happened was in both airports, I went to Punjabi Grill, which is airport food. And I ordered dosa at both places. And I was like, oh my God, I never want to leave India. This is the best food ever. Yeah, it was incredible. Yeah. So that's what I had. It was just that's the name of the restaurant. The side, I don't even know what the side, dude, when I get dosa here, I don't even care what the sides are. Like, I don't even touch it. I just eat the dosa. It's good. Okay. All right. Next up, Sadiq wrote, my sense of humor is just like yours. And let me go back to the main camera angle here. Hold on a second, guys. All right, hold on a second. Stay with me here. I want to turn off the background. Okay, there we go. Yeah. And I use purplish blue for the green screen. And not green. The reason I don't use green is my eyes are greenish, and if you do green screen with green eyes, it looks like you have no soul, like your eyes are just black or something. You can see right through me. Yeah. In fact, if you're in a movie and you have green eyes, and they have to use they do use green screen, you have to wear contacts as well. All right, next up, Sadiq wrote, "My sense of humor is just like yours." Cracking the dad jokes when I'm just too young and not even married. Yeah, it's fun, man. It's fun. The dad jokes start especially when you have kids, because everything is supposed to be rated G. Yeah. And I tried to monitor everything that this guy watches. Right, I won't let him watch rated R movies. And the other day, I heard him cracking a joke that was from Superbad, which is one of the best movies ever made. If you haven't seen Superbad, turn me off. Go watch it right now. It's the best movie ever. But I got mad at first. I was like, hey, but it's so hard. You can't control this stuff. Yeah. It is a good movie. And I do have a fake ID, which is McLovin. Okay. McLovin, fake ID from the movie. It's the best. And I remember a couple of years ago, I was vlogging here in Hillsborough where I live. And somebody called the police because I had a camera. I'm like, screw you, I'm vlogging. And so the cops came up to me, and they're really, really nice. And I got them on my side. We were laughing. And I said, can I show you my fake ID? And the cop said, sure. And I showed him McLovin, and he was dying laughing. So I'll show you McLovin ID. And that's my sister there. McLovin. You can get it from eBay if you want. Go to ebay.com. I bought it for $5 from eBay years ago, and I'll tell you why in a second. Okay. McLovin. It's the worst fake ID ever. Here it is here. Okay. So, yeah. It's this guy from the movie who he wants fake ID. So he gets his fake ID from Hawaii. The picture is off-centered, and his name is McLovin. It's the most ridiculous thing. And so I bought this fake ID here because years ago I was in the hospital with one of my kids. He's fine. And I wanted him to crack up. So every time we go in to check in the hospital, this is crazy, I would show my McLovin ID. And one of two things would happen. They would either laugh or they'd say, okay, that's good. But they never asked for my real ID. It's crazy. Don't use it at the airport, please. But you know what I'm getting at. Yeah. I used it in Brazil, too, when I went down there to give a speech years ago. And I was trying to get into office buildings. People laughed. They didn't ask for my real ID. It's bizarre. Yeah. McLovin. All right. Okay, next up, Hari wrote, how do you feel when you hear motivational talks from physically challenged people's TED Talks? It's incredibly inspiring. Incredibly inspiring. And what I want you to do is, this is not a religious thing, but read a book called David and Goliath. And it's written by Malcolm Gladwell, a brilliant author who wrote Outliers. He's from Toronto. And in the book David and Goliath, he talks about people that are diagnosed or misdiagnosed with some sort of illness or whatever it is. They're more successful than everybody else in many situations because they want to prove the world wrong. And so I remember when I invested in a company called Cohesity, and my firm, when I worked in Metro Capital, we led the Series B. The Series A was led by Sequoia. And so when I was at Sequoia for a board meeting, I actually had a little bit of downtime there. And I reached out to the managing partner there. His name is Doug Leone. And I sat down with him for an hour and a half. And I talked to him about business. And I asked him, I said, why is it at Sequoia your success rate is ridiculously high? Like at Sequoia, 5% of their venture capital investments are in unicorns, meaning companies with a valuation of $1 billion or more. 5%. Just to put that into context, the top 10 venture capital firms on the planet have 1% of their investments in unicorns. And so I asked Doug Leone, and this is going to all make sense with respect to that book, David and Goliath. I asked Doug, I said, Doug, how do you do it? How do you consistently outperform every single decade? And I got to wrap this up in a second. Sorry, guys. But he said, well, when we invest in people or hire people, we like to hire or invest in people that something happened to them. And I'm paraphrasing and not doing this justice, but he said something happens to them earlier in life that leads them to believe that they're not good enough. And those are the best people to hire or invest in because they want to prove the world wrong. And they're so ambitious to prove the world wrong that they won't sell their company for only $1 million. They won't even sell it for $100 billion. They want to colonize Mars like Elon Musk. And so with Elon Musk, what happened to him when he was younger was he was picked on like crazy, poor guy, in South Africa. He was beaten up a lot too for being different. And this is all publicly disclosed in one of the books about him, where he gave an interview about it. And so he wanted to prove the world wrong. And it's the same thing with any great entrepreneur I've ever invested in. When they were younger, something happened to them that leads them to believe they're not good enough. And so they work their tail off to prove the world wrong. Those are always the best people to invest in. Always, always, always. And with me, for example, in terms of what's wrong with me, well, there's a lot wrong with me. But when I was younger, and I'm certainly not putting myself in the same category as Elon Musk of the world at all. But when I was younger, when I was in the 6th grade and the 8th grade, the teachers wanted to fail me. And they actually thought I had a learning disability. So they sent me to Lakeshore Road in Oakville, Ontario, to a place called Chisholm to see if I had a learning disability. And I just didn't do well in school because I wasn't passionate until my dad bought us a computer for the house in the 9th grade or whatever it was. And I started doing better in school because I enjoyed computers. That's why I enjoy these webcasts. I use computers all the time with it, obviously. And so I found my passion. But I was insecure for years and I wanted to prove the world wrong because I thought there's something wrong with me. And when I worked at Goldman Sachs, I thought they made a mistake hiring me when I was in my 20s. And when I was there, I was so scared. And I didn't say anything because I thought if I said something, people would know I'm dumb. But if I didn't say anything, people would just maybe think I'm dumb. But the bottom line is, if you want to prove the world wrong, then that's a recipe for incredible success. And so with respect to your question about watching TEDx talks by people with disabilities, it certainly inspires me a lot. I love them. Yeah. Okay, guys, there's a couple more questions there. I'm so sorry. We're out of time. If you're in my Silver MBA program, go to the first lecture in the curriculum, okay? And you'll find a link there to do Zoom with me right now for the next hour. Otherwise, if you're in Gold and Platinum, I'll see you for our 2-hour office hours starting at 11:20 a.m. today. And we'll do one-on-ones as well, my Platinum students today. Go check out my MBA degree program, please. Go to harounmba.com. And if you're curious about what it's like to be in the Gold and Platinum program and you want to buy, you have questions, whatever, you can set up a meeting with me. And the way you do that is you go to, harounmba.com. McLovin. Okay, so you go to, watch Superbad, guys, please. It's so good. And if you've seen it once, watch it again. It gets better a second time. But you go to my website here to learn more about the MBA program. There's Q&A here as well, whatever. And you can click here to book a one-on-one Zoom call with me as well on my calendar. Would love to chat with you about it. And if you're a Silver student and you're thinking about upgrading, you can also book a one-on-one with me as well. And so I want to thank you all for your time. This has been a great webcast. God bless y'all. Please click like and subscribe if you want to, or dislike, whatever. And I'll see you next Thursday and every single Thursday. Thank you. I love you guys. Thanks.